watching those developments for us from inside the auditorium at this hour is our senior reporter, Canny Maphanga, who I have no doubt, will be keeping on to every word from Fannie Masemola. And Canny, if you're able to hear me, do we have any signs of what's likely to unfold in today's testimony?
Indeed. Good morning to you, Ayanda, and to the viewers once again. Well, we have seen Lieutenant General Madlanga Commission paint a broader picture of these allegations of criminality, political interference, and corruption in the criminal justice system by going through each critical state institution where he alleges that this organized crime syndicate has infiltrated and stopped the operations of these various critical institutions, or at least harmed their ability to fight crime in South Africa. Essentially, the second day of General Masemola's testimony will delve more into depth into one of those critical institutions. We're seeing him paint a picture of the dynamics of the law enforcement agency that is the South African Police Services. Its high ranks, how those individuals conducted themselves with respect to the PKTT and its disbandment, and of course how different parties were on different pages. I'm sure questions continue to mount for at least Lieutenant General Sabia, because he was implicated by General Fannie Masemola yesterday, who alleged that a concerned party approached him with regards to Sabia presiding over an investigation pertaining to Vusimuzi Cat Matlala, who has already been identified as a key figure by Mkhwanazi in this alleged syndicate and its infiltration of the criminal justice system. Certainly, questions will continue to mount for the police minister that is now on a leave of absence, that is Senzo Mchunu, regarding the decisions and the conduct he has taken regards to the PKTT, because there's a lot of questions about the powers he would have enjoyed as a policy head, that is the minister, versus the national commissioner being the head of the operations, the one who implements the how. Certainly, questions will continue to rise about the decision to disband the PKTT, where he drew the legal authority to do so, whether he understood it as an encroachment on the duties of the National Commissioner as head of the operations of the South African Police Services, why he did not feel the need to consult General Masemola on such a drastic decision on a team that we've already been told was quite successful and was achieving a lot in the fight against crime wherever it was deployed. And then, of course, it experienced challenges once it entered the Gauteng space and then started to investigate key figures that we have been told, or it has been alleged, are closely associated with high-ranking members of SABC and, of course, the Minister of Police. As he continues to go through those various dynamics of the South African Police Services, certainly more questions will continue to rise for specifically the Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu, and Lieutenant General Sabia regarding their conduct, not only surrounding the PKTT, but this alleged organized crime syndicate that had infiltrated the law enforcement agency that is specifically the South African Police Services. Over to you in studio.
Absolutely. Canny Maphanga, thanks very much indeed for that. Of course, Canny, just a stone throw away from where we are at our satellite studios here at the Bridget Mabandla Justice College, where we're still, I suppose, trying to make sense of what we've heard so far, with the hopes, of course, that there'll be a whole lot more clarity when Fannie Masemola gets back to the hot seat, so to speak, in just under or just over 10 minutes' time. If we're able to show you the visuals inside the room itself, you can see preparations well underway. And in fact, if history is anything to go by, even before 30:30, the police chief will be seated and will be rearing to go, so to speak, from the commissioners. But once again, political analyst Dirk Kosa is with us as we try and make sense of this moment, and he joins us once again. And Prof, thanks for sticking around. You and I were still speaking about how this commission is actually divided into three phases, and in fact we've been told that before. The first phase is still the laying of the foundation and the ventilating of the allegations, as we've seen.
Yes, that's very important. So that establishes the base the basis on which the rest of the proceedings will continue. The second phase is then about testing this evidence that has been presented. And then, as I understand it, then right at the end, in the third phase, General Mchunu will come back and will respond to that, to what he heard, that's the presentations that were made. And then it's in the hands of the Commission to reach their conclusion. So I think it's a very important way in which it is structured. The question will be, is that in line with what is the terms of reference that the President presented to them? Because if you look at that document, it's wide-ranging. And if I look now again at the banners here, it talks about the criminal justice system in general.
Yes.
Not only the police service, so it's an intelligence, NPA, the Metro Police. So it will be interesting to see if there's some other evidence about them that will still be presented also. But that's in the pipeline, and in the hands of the Commission. And that is obviously important in terms of whether they will be able to meet their deadlines of the 3 months and 6 months at the end.
Which is what I was going to ask you next, right? It's going to raise all manner of questions about whether this 6-month deadline was realistic in a context where we did start later than what was anticipated. And there's probably going to be a break in December as well, right? Some kind of break away for the festive season. And it's very difficult, I would say, to actually control what comes out in testimony, So from General Mchunu, you've already heard, for example, of 2 MPs who've been implicated in frustrating the work of crime intelligence. I can't imagine a scenario where they wouldn't want to come and testify.
Yes, no, for sure. And I mean, first of all, to clean their names, to try to do that, but then secondly also to provide the necessary evidence for the Commission in order to understand whether it is going into the ranks of ordinary members of Parliament, this matter that they have to look at. So indeed, the evidence is going to create additional demands on more evidence. So it is in the hands of the judge, of the chairperson, in order to say where do we draw the line. And I think that is going to be a very difficult call for him to make, of presenting a report ultimately which is comprehensive, which will enjoy the public trust, but that those implicated or those close to this situation won't be able to say, but we didn't have the opportunity to put our case to the Commission. Yeah. And that's the fine balance, I think, that will be there.
Absolutely. Hopefully the work of police is continuing unhindered as all of this goes on, because of course we know that these are essential services, but I do wonder where you reckon this places Fannie Masemola once he's done giving his own testimony. I think once again he'll be judged, whether we like it or not, by what he did and what he didn't do.
Yes, I think it becomes a bit of a test for the National Commissioner, this whole process here, more than I would say General Mchunu. I think there's more public sympathy for him. What happened yesterday puts General Masemola a bit on the spot, also in the public domain, in terms of public opinion, whether he actually acted according to the way in which he was supposed to do it in relation to the minister. He was, maybe to repeat almost what we have said, is he was indecisive in his way of presenting himself.
I saw some people saying he didn't have a backbone, actually.
Yes, and I think that will be part of the public criticism that will exist, is that when he conceded that what the minister did was either unconstitutional or illegal, but still he didn't confront him directly with that. I think that is what will possibly be remembered of him, because he is not very far away from his own retirement. And there won't be much opportunity for him to be able to be the architect of a turnaround of the police. So I don't think he wants to be put in a position similar to that of Jackie Salebi and others, of being saying that they failed the police service.
Absolutely. What has also emerged, at least from his first day of testimony, is that it seems the president may have known something, and this is the second time President Cyril Ramaphosa's office, and I think more specifically his name has come up. Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi mentioned that when he tried to sound the alarm, he knocked on multiple doors, and one of them was the presidency's, and he found no favor. But yesterday, Fannie Masemola mentioned that there may have been a discussion between Senzo Mchunu and the president in the lead up to the disbandment being made public. Again, where does this put the president?
Well, if that is indeed the case,
yes,
then the president most possibly must come here to the commission to explain himself. The president is, strictly speaking, supposed to be informed about all of this. As the head of state, and the fact that he is the commander not only of the defense force, but by implication also of the police service. All security branches, all security agencies of the state reports in a sense directly to the president because also through the National Security Council, intelligence, the fact that the president must be briefed on a very regular basis with respect to policing matters, security matters, military matters. So if he doesn't know, it's also a reflection on the president.
Right. Do you see a scenario where he doesn't come to speak? And if so, where do you reckon that leaves, I don't know, even maybe the credibility of this commission?
Well, it's in a sense, I would say, unlikely that the president will come. There's a general sort of understanding that presidents don't testify in court cases. President Mandela was one of the exceptions in the beginning. But generally speaking, they want to keep the president out of court or out of processes like this because it's regarded as that it lowers his status as in terms of being the head of state. So I will be surprised if he actually comes and appear before this commission, because that will be in a sense saying, well, I subject myself to another authority, while strictly speaking constitutionally I am the highest authority in the state.
Does it not matter that he's done it before? In fact, both Jacob Zuma and I think Cyril Ramaphosa appeared before the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, and I think
yes,
a lot was made of that moment. In fact, if memory serves, I think that was seen as them having nothing to hide in some respects, and in some ways was meant to actually feed into their credibility.
I fully agree with you, and that would be, I would say, from a moral point of view,
right,
politically moral point of view, it would be a very good thing to do. But given the political dynamics, the fact that the president is under pressure in many respects, I will be surprised if he will be able to do that now.
All right. Well, I suppose time will tell. I see it's 27 minutes after 9 o'clock, and Fannie Masemola is already seated, as expected, way ahead of time, at least if other processes are anything to go by. Just from the corner of my eye there, I can also see it seems the commissioners are about to walk in at any moment, which means we're just seconds possibly away from the start of today's proceedings. Fannie Masemola in a suit and tie once again, very different from the kind of gear we usually see him when he's in public. He's usually dressed in his police uniform, and so much, I suppose, had been said about that, at least insofar as Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's decision to be dressed in his, what do we call it, right gear, when he made his statements in July on the 6th, the day that I think has really set in motion the series of events that have led us to this moment. Fannie Masemola, in some respects, expected to pick up from where he left off yesterday, insofar as what he knew about the disbandment of the political killings task team, who was responsible for that, and why that is the case. Mbuyiseni Madlanga is the chairperson of the committee, who's just now taken his seat. And let me take this moment to say thank you to Professor Dirk Kotza, who's a political analyst